Hello, welcome to Joy of Stationery and happy Hobonichi season. The month of August begins what many of us in the stationery community know as Hobonichi season, which means that they are coming out with their newest release. So this will be for 2024. And this is a release that's really exciting because it includes not only their chouchos and planners, but also includes a number of really beautiful new covers. And at least for me, this is one of the most exciting parts about Hobonichi season, and particularly the month of August, where they kind of give a sneak peek or, one release per day or one new change or some other type of news. And so what's exciting is to kind of see what the new designs will be, and to start taking a look at if any of the new releases will catch my fancy. And so what I wanted to do to sort of celebrate is to do a video on my current Hobonichi Cover Collection. This is a type of video that I really enjoy watching. Others in the stationery community do, where they show a little bit about what covers that they have from Hobonichi over the years. And it's always just really fun to see the different designs and even sometimes live vicariously with some of the covers that one doesn't have or might be curious about or interested in. So what I have for you for this particular video is I'll be covering I guess what I have in terms of a Hobonichi cover collection in the A6 size. What I'll be doing is doing the A5 size or the cousin size in a separate video. So this one will focus solely on A6 covers. So I'm not sure what to call it. I was going to say a modest collection, but maybe it's not. I guess it sort of depends on where you're coming from. But I have here a selection of the covers that I have. I had a couple of others, but I either needed to give them away or they've actually not come on with our move. But these really kind of formed the main ones in my collection anyway. I wanted to make sure to bring with me the ones that I knew that I would want to have on hand. So I think what I'll do is go a little bit in the order in which I acquired them. I think that something that I've mentioned previously is I feel like I was introduced to Hobonichi relatively recently. I think it was in 2021 that I first picked up the Hobonichi planner in the English, and had gotten another cover from Etsy. So it wasn't until the summer of 2021 that I witnessed for the first time in real time the excitement of Hobonichi season that August. And so my acquisition really kind of started out with the line that was released at the time, which is the 2022 release. Or the ones that would come out for the calendar year 2022. But along the way, I have acquired a couple from previous years, thanks to friends and loved ones who were able to, get these into my hands. So the very first one that I got in the A6 size is actually the one that I'm currently using right now, which is the Count the Lights cover. Just as a quick point, I just realized that out of these are the standard Hobonichi design, which consists of, the butterfly pen loops that when you close the cover, you can put a pen in both of the pen loops, and that will keep your choucho and the cover closed. So I have these sort of laid out here, but I realized that the little bookmarks for each of them are all actually different. So the Count the Lights cover, I'll sort of start with that one. It is the very first one that I got. It was the one that when Hobonichi kind of announced it as part of their August release days in 2021, it just struck me as just being so beautiful. I loved, and I've talked about this cover before, I've mentioned it, but this is an illustration by Hiroko Kubota, and I really hope that I'm pronouncing the name correctly. But the artist has these beautifully kind of whimsical and nostalgic illustrations and designs, and I just thought this was just so beautiful. I love the kind of pink of the sunset and this little fox who is looking out over the city lights. So this is sort of why the cover is called Count the Lights. And, you know, I love the kind of composition of this. There's this beautiful little crescent moon that's on the front cover when you fold it. And then you also have the kind of composition of, you know, kind of this electricity pole and electricity wires sort of connecting both the front and the back. And then, you know, when you kind of look at the back side, you've got these 3 adorable little birds that are sitting that are sitting on the wire, and that also seem to be in some ways, you know, even if they're kind of on the front cover, on the back cover, both sharing in the experience of looking over the beautiful city lights as the sun sets. And I just thought this was so lovely and so beautiful that I knew that I had to get this. And I'm really glad to say that this was my very first Hobonichi A6 cover. The bookmarks, as you can see here, these are apparently kind of the standard design in terms of having one that's kind of a triangular bookmark and one that's rectangular. But I love the kind of color contrast. So using this this light blue that I believe is meant to be kind of taken from one of the lighter blue shades in the city lights. And it's this color contrast that I think marks it as a little bit different and a little bit special. I'll show you with the regular colors cover, you know, you can see the bookmarks have the same shape here, but they tend to just be the same color as the ribbons themselves. But I do like the contrast here. One other beautiful detail about this particular cover is that this inside pocket in the back is a continuation or kind of a detail of the lights of the city. So I love that we have that little detail there. And I really love that the pen loops themselves are a continuation of the scene. So you can see the way that, you know, that the bottom pen loop continues the horizon with a little bit of the city lights, and I think it's like the ocean in the background as well as some of the sunset. And then the back loop continues the sunset gradient, kind of both in the back and the front. So just really lovely details for this cover, and obviously I'm using it now. So, you know, it's so lovely to know that, you know, even though I ordered it in 2021 for the 2022 release, that here in 2023, as I am anticipating the 2024 release, I am returning to this cover. So it's just nice to know that these, you know, beautiful artifacts in themselves are ones that hopefully, or that we choose ones that spark joy, that bring us some happiness when we look at them, and we can always go back to them in future years as well. So again, to go in order of acquisition, I think that I had gotten a couple others, but those are the ones that haven't quite made it to the new country with us just yet, or I've had to kind of give away as part of the international move that we were kind of going through. So apart from those, which I think were also from the 2022 lineup, the next one that I got is actually one that was earlier. So this is, I believe, from the 2021 lineup. The spring start edition, and I remember seeing it because, you know, this was kind of what was advertised around the time that I had been introduced to the Hobonichi planner Techo to kind of begin with. But, you know, I think it was sort of sold out everywhere at the time. Later on, my siblings were looking for a gift to give me, and they knew I was starting to become a huge fan of Hobonichi. And so they were thinking about a gift for me over the holidays, and I believe that Paper Blush Plans on Instagram was destashing a number of Hobonichi covers, and so my wonderful and beloved siblings got this one for me. So I love that it reminds me of them. This is the Dorami-Chan cover, again, the spring start, or the spring release in 2021. This is the very, very cute Dorami character from the Doraemon series, and you can see these absolutely adorable bookmarks here that I fell in love with. There are these cute little flowers. You can see it's the same shape of the of her tail there, but they've used them as the bookmarks, and I think that just looks so adorable. I love that this is a kind of canvas fabric. This is something that I started to kind of recognize as I started accumulating or collecting Hobonichi covers, was the sense of what materials they were using and what I tended to gravitate towards. And so I loved that this was kind of more of a fabric-y, I'm sorry, a more canvasy fabric. This cute and vibrant plaid apparently is meant to kind of match what's actually the pattern, the plaid pattern of her pocket. And I love that even though this is kind of a designer cover, that this actually includes that exterior pocket. I do find the exterior pocket to be really helpful sometimes, and so I love that they included that here. Inside you'll see that there's, I love that they kind of continued the plaid in this back inner pocket as well, and as well as the pen loops. And you know, you can see that they included some other cute little moments from Doraemon, and I still actually have the sticker that came with it, which is Doraemon, the Doraemon character himself. So this was the next one in my collection. Very adorable. The next one that I have is this absolutely beautiful Ukrainian Flowers cover, and I'm so grateful to my dear friend Care in the stationery community, who I was able to get this from. I haven't really seen it around, and it's from some years ago. Gosh, I'm not quite sure which year it was from, because it was sort of before my time in terms of my knowledge of Hobonichi, so I'll look it up and put it in the description below. But I just thought this was such a beautiful design, and so I had gotten the panini tote and the drawstring bag in the Ukrainian Flowers design when they came out. And again, I'm so grateful to Care for, you know, helping me add this to my collection. I think this is just such an exquisite cover. Again, I love that this is kind of a more of like a canvasy fabric. I do like the feel of that over more of the kind of nylon polyester ones. And then of course, these flowers are actually embroidered on, and I really love that. I really love that that detail. You can see that the bookmarks are quite different as well, and I love these as well. So there are these tassels as opposed to kind of the standard type of bookmarks, and super soft, and I really love that it kind of adds to the tactile appeal of this cover. This also has an exterior pocket, and I absolutely love that it does. I love that such a beautiful design also has the kind of practicality of this as well, and that it's kind of the kind of beautiful and kind of rustic canvas for the back here as well. And then you've got these lovely pen loops that have the kind of stripe design, and I think there's a really kind of lovely story behind this as well in the description from Hobonichi. And when you open it up, I love that they've continued the use of, again, this sort of canvas, a little bit of it's a little softer than canvas material for the inside. So all of the pockets on either side being of that same material. And I just think this is, it's such a beautiful cover, and I'm so grateful and lucky, thanks to my dear friend, to have this in my collection now. So the next one that I have is actually from the most recent release, so the 2023 release, which came out in sort of the summer fall of 2022, and that is this really striking minä perhonen cover. And so Hobonichi, it seems like, always has a few covers releases in collaboration with minä perhonen textiles and minä perhonen fabrics. So this was one of the options from this past release. And just as a quick note with the bookmarks, I think these are kind of how they designed the bookmarks for the minä perhonen covers, so where you have this kind of lovely knotted fabric and two circular little end pieces rather than the triangle and the rectangular ones that you see on the kind of standard covers. So this was a cover that I didn't get immediately, but as time went on, for some reason, the kind of image of it really stuck with me. And I felt eventually like I would love to include this in my collection. So just to kind of show you what this looks like, it is a really kind of striking design on this fabric. It's a white fabric here and kind of a, it seems kind of like a deep teal-ish or deep kind of blue that's used for these flying swallows. And I also really loved the message of the description about, you know, swallows that are kind of flying back home. And I think something that was really, really appealing to me was this, the idea of kind of flying to new horizons or flying, you know, flying home or to new horizons. This sense of kind of flight and an adventure and of going to a destination that you're looking forward to. And so, especially because of the impending move for us, especially because it was going to be international and be, you know, a new adventure in a new country, I think that's what also made this so appealing to me, was this idea of seeking out new horizons, of this kind of next adventure, and the sense of freedom and flight that the birds were kind of bringing to me. I will say that I wanted to be careful with this cover because I think over time I did realize that because this is a white fabric, that I think it's very easy to get it a little bit dirtier. So I've tried to be really careful with it, and so I've not actually used it all that much. I do believe I can use a cover on cover with it. It depending on how I'm feeling, I think, and I think I got a comment on one of my other videos about whether I used the Hobonichi cover on covers. Sometimes I certainly do. I do think that on the whole, I love the tactility of kind of feeling the cover so much that I tend not to use the plastic cover on covers too much, or, you know, sometimes I will to protect them, but inevitably what happens is I get to a point where I want to remove them so I can actually feel, you know, the fabric or, you know, the materials of the choucho covers themselves. But, you know, again, because this is white, and this is something I think, you know, kind of going forward, I'm just going to keep in mind, it lends itself a little more easily to becoming altered in its sort of color and brightness. So, you know, something that I'll keep in mind. But, you know, I am still really glad that I have this in my collection, though I've not used it much just yet, as I'm trying to figure out the best way to kind of take care of the fabric. I have high hopes for it, so much in the same way that I've really loved the Count the Lights cover, but didn't necessarily use it very much immediately, but I am now. I foresee in the future, you know, going back to this cover and then, you know, getting my full sort of use out of it. So it's lovely to know that I have this and I can kind of go back to it and know that it'll be there waiting for me for a future year where I feel it calling to me again. So I really like that. Something that I really loved also about about this cover, which is maybe just a really small detail, but was actually the kind of warm gray tone of the inside. That was very soothing to me for some reason. You know, seeing the color, and again, maybe it's like the warmth of the tone a little bit. And the neutrality of it just kind of gave me a sense of kind of calm and peace. And so I felt like kind of opening it up and having a techo inside it and being able to kind of see it against this soothing gray would be something that I would really appreciate. And you can see that the pen loop is in that same kind of lovely warm gray as well. And same with the ends of the bookmarks here. And then the next one, which is my most recently used cover, is the first time that I've gotten a Hobonichi Colors cover in the A6 size. This was the Willow Tree colorway with this kind of beautiful, again, kind of burnt orange, burnt umber, in contrast with this lovely pale green. And, you know, somewhat like the Hello Swallows cover, it was one where the more that I kind of sat with myself and thought about the lineup, the more that this cover was sort of calling to me. And I'm so glad that I got it, obviously, because if you've seen my previous videos, you know that I used this for my One Book July. I was really glad that this was kind of a plain colors cover, because it also meant that there was kind of room to customize, which was not something that I really thought about doing before. I think I had thought of more temporary customization, so putting like a plastic or clear cover on it and maybe kind of switching out, you know, certain inserts inside it. But, you know, it was the first time that I decided to kind of experiment with patches, and I really love how it turned out. As a little bit more context about these choices, when I decided to do this summer, I was actually inspired by a previous, it might have been maybe the 2021 release, but it's the Hobonichi cover that was themed on camp, I believe it was the name of it. And it was what looked like a kind of canvas cover with little kind of camping gear embroidered on it, and it did have a pendant that I think that says life on it. So those of you who are familiar with Hobonichi will most likely have seen it around. I know that others in the planner community definitely have that cover. This particular summer, I was sort of thinking about that cover and thinking, oh, you know, that really is a nice cover. You know, I hadn't really thought about it before. And, you know, I didn't have that particular cover, but I thought, actually, you know what, maybe I'll try some patches and kind of invoke the kind of spirit of that cover in some ways. And as I mentioned before, it is more kind of simple in terms of, you know, my just having these two patches on there. I do have the pennant though, which kind of reminded me or was reminiscent of that cover design. And again, I really love how it turned out. You know, it also kind of helped to make it feel more personalized, you know, because I had made these choices to personalize it with these patches. And because of this experiment or project, I'm actually really looking forward to seeing Hobonichi's releases, not just for the designer covers, but their colors covers and what colors that they choose, what color combinations they choose this time around, with the idea of seeing, you know, maybe there's a color combination that will really appeal to me for this release. And that also gives me some room to kind of think about how might I personalize or customize that colors cover. So that prospect is really exciting to me. On the inside here, I had just kind of put this bunny patch just on the inside cover. I think because I just really liked the way that so many of these other covers have the inside back cover as another little special design. And so I just kind of wanted to have something there, and I chose these bunny patches that were quite inexpensive on Amazon, so I just wanted to kind of give it a shot. And it was a way to also kind of mark that because it's the year of the rabbit, potentially a way of archiving in the future. But you can see that the inside is, again, that kind of lovely pale green, which is quite a kind of soothing shade. It's not too bright. And so there's a kind of calmness to it. And again, I do think that is a really kind of nice color contrast between the colors that they chose for this. So yes, my One Book July cover. And this brings me again to my current one, which is the Count the Lights. I do want to talk about a few others. So one of them is the very first zippered A6 cover that I got, also the minä perhonen line from the 2023 release, and I was really struck by this one, and I felt like I wanted to get it. And I think when I got it, I loved the way that it felt in my hands. This textile has this kind of really lovely texture to it, and this is the choucho design, which means that it has these sort of whimsical butterflies that are kind of randomly sewn onto it. And for this particular release, it's a kind of navy background of different patterns, actually, and I believe that it's meant to it's sort of different sort of landscapes of the ground beneath you as you're kind of flying overhead, and you can see that these butterflies are sort of flying overhead as well, and the butterflies themselves are embroidered in this white thread, and this is the back of it. And this was, as I mentioned, this is the very first time I had gotten a zippered A6 cover. I believe they all come with this, I believe this is actually cow leather for these. The zipper, which also comes with the minä perhonen sort of trademark butterfly little emblem on it. I think what I realized about these zippered covers though, I also did like, again, kind of I think this is a slightly deeper version of the kind of warm gray, but I liked that as well. I do like how much room that these zippered covers provide. There's this mesh pocket here, as well as a pen loop, as well as, again, kind of slots for your choucho to go inside. But there's also a pocket here, the pockets that you have on this side, and then kind of a full pocket on the back here that I think can fit kind of A5 size. But as I was saying, I think what I realized about the zippered covers is that to some extent, I think for sort of the way that my brain works, it's just more helpful to have covers for me that I can more sort of easily open. And not that, opening up a zippered cover is necessarily, meant to be a difficult thing, but I think it's just kind of one extra step in a way to getting it open. And I think that, the way that my brain works is that it kind of works with a kind of out of sight, out of mind. And so in a particular kind of way, having something like these covers where I can kind of easily, open them, kind of leave them open on the desk, gives me the sense of my chouchos and planners being much more easily accessible. And so I have found that I think for the purposes of reaching for a planner that I think these work better for me in the long run than the zippered cover does, though I do hope I'll be able to kind of make more use of this at some point. I do like the portability of it, but I think when it gets closed up, it sort of feels like, oh, it's in a box somewhere now. So I find that I'm not feeling as kind of the access to it in the way that I might need. But still a really beautiful cover, and again, something that I am glad to have this in my collection as my only A6 zippered cover. And I do still have hopes that I'll find a way to kind of use it more often, maybe to bring around with me, right, as something more portable that can keep everything sort of safe. And then finally, I have these two covers here, I'll actually speak about this one first, even though I got this more recently, perhaps the most recently. So this is actually a cover that was part of the 2022 release. This is the Reflect cover, and it is this kind of nice tweed. And the appeal of this cover really for me was, as I think I've mentioned in a previous video, this lovely brass button that features a darling kitty looking into the mirror. And especially because this was the year that I got my lovely kitty companion, I wanted to kind of commemorate that by getting this cover for my Spring Start techo for that I'd been using as kind of a birthday techo that started in the spring. This one is different also in that it has this sort of button enclosure rather than the usual kind of butterfly pen closures. So I do notice also that similarly with the zippered cover, it does make it feel a slightly less accessible to me in some regard. And this is just a personal thing in terms of how my brain works. And also because this particular sort of birthday techo hasn't quite taken off in the same way as it did last year, this is still not being used quite as much. I think when I get Happy Mail, I do kind of insert it in or into the pages so that I can kind of keep track of it, and that's kind of what this has become. But hopefully I'll be able to kind of find more use for this, and otherwise a really kind of lovely cover. And I was curious about the fabric too. So yeah. And then finally, this was one of my real loves last year. So during 2022, I had gotten this as part of the 2022 release in the spring. And this is the minä perhonen piece mix, which is a Hobonichi cover that is constructed from different sort of patches from different minä perhonen fabrics. And this again was the spring edition. So it's the spring piece mix, I believe is what it is, in the A6 size. And I just absolutely loved using this. I think because of the way that tactility is really important to me and really appealing to me, I really loved having these various and different fabrics that that I could sort of just feel in my hands and really kind of cherish as I worked on this particular techo. And this was a Spring Start techo that in a previous video, I think I had mentioned this, but that I'd used as kind of as a birthday techo to kind of document 1 year of my life, starting with my birthday in the spring. And so it just made this whole sort of package, right? Techo plus this beautiful spring mix, spring mix cover that was available through lottery, really special to me. And again, just with the lovely fabrics. I think because I loved using this with that techo so much, I've kept it in here because I think by the end of using this techo, I thought that I think I want to archive it with the cover that it was in, just as, again, an entire experience. We'll see if that continues because, there might very well come another point where I would love to use this cover again. So, it's kind of this interesting balance between wanting to archive it as that memory, right, and as that experience, and also wanting to kind of use it again. But at least because I have this beautiful, beautiful cover in my collection, that option, or both of those options, are always available to me. Okay, so I think that pretty much sums up my Hobonichi Cover Collection in the A6 size. I hope that this was kind of enjoyable to look at. I know that certainly for me, I love looking at the videos that others in the stationery community have put out showing us their Hobonichi Cover collections as well. It's always just such a wonderful kind of visual feast in a way, to look at all the beautiful designs from the years. So I wanted to do one of those myself, especially to kind of commemorate the start of, again, this year's Hobonichi season. I am so excited to see what the 2024 lineup will be from Hobonichi, and I know a number of you all are as well. So I hope you enjoyed, and happy Hobonichi season to all. All right, bye.